Hare Krishna. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nittai Gaura Haribol Haribol Nittai Gaura Haribol जय मुशपाद परमहंस प्रचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमद ऐसे भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवत महापुराण की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 2, entitled Hiranyakashipu, King of the Demons. Text number 43. One word at a time? Okay. Yatha nalo darushu bhinna iyate yatha nilo dehagatah पृथक स्थितः यथा नाभः सर्वगतं न सज्जते तथा पुमान् सर्वगुणाश्रय परः यथा नलो दारुषु भिन्न ईयते यथा नलो दारुषु भिन्न ईयते यथा निलो देह गतक पृथक स्थिता यथा निलो देह पृथक यथा निलो देह गत पृथक स्थितः यथा नाभः सर्वगतं न सज्जते तथा पुमान् सर्वगुणाश्रया परः यथा निलो दारुषु भिन्न ईयते यथा निलो देह गतक पृथक स्थितः यथा नाभः सर्वगतं न सज्जते तथा पुमां सर्वगुणाश्रया परम् यथा नलो दारुषु भिन्न ईयते यथा निलो देह देह पृथक स्थितः नलो गतं न सज्जते Yata, just as. Analaha, the fire. Darusho, in wood. Binna, separate. Iyate, is perceived. Yatha, just as. Anilaha, the air. Deha gataha, within the body. Prithak, separate. Sthitaha, situated. Yata, just as. Nabaha, the sky. Sarvagatam, all-pervading. Na, not. Sajjate, mix. Tatha, similarly. Puman, the living entity. Sarva gunashraya, although now the shelter of the modes of material nature. Paraha, transcendental to material contamination. Translation. As fire, although situated in wood, is perceived to be different from the wood, as air, although situated within the mouth and nostrils, is perceived to be separate, and as the sky, although all-pervading, never mixes with anything, so the living entity, although now encaged within the material body, of which it is the source, is separate from it. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has explained that the material energy and the spiritual energy both emanate from Him. The material energy is described as Me Binna Prakriti Astada, the 8 separated energies of the Lord. But although the 8 gross and subtle material energies, namely earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence and false ego, are stated to be Binna, separate from the Lord, actually they are not. As fire appears separate from wood, and as air flowing through the nostrils and mouth of the body appears to be separate from the body, so the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears separate from the living being, but is actually separate and not separate simultaneously. This is the philosophy of Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, propounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. According to the reactions of karma, the living entity appears separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but actually he is very intimately related with the Lord. Consequently, even though we now seem neglected by the Lord, He is actually always alert to our activities. Under all circumstances, therefore, we should simply depend on the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus revive our intimate relationship with Him. We must depend upon the authority and control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Homagyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Rama Ramo Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Grateful and honored to be here amidst all of you all on this auspicious Kartik morning. So we're discussing Hiranyakashipu's Gita, and it's interesting that the scriptures have many people speaking the philosophy of the Gita. But the philosophy of the Gita becomes relevant according to who speaks it, and more importantly, the character of the person speaking it. Just give you some examples. In the Ramayana, there is something known as Ram Gita, where Lord Ram speaks the Bhagavad Gita. It's a very, very tiny section. It's only literally one verse, but it's a profound verse. When Vibhishan sees Ram facing Ravan, Ravan is just going to attack Lord Ram, and Ravan is coming on a massive chariot. And when Vibhishan sees Ravan coming on, he's equipped with an armor, he has weapons, he has so many different types of missiles, he has a chariot, he has a driver. So he is like really equipped. And Ram has nothing, literally. He's on the ground, he doesn't have a chariot, he doesn't have a driver, he doesn't have an armor, he doesn't have enough equipment, nor does he have any kind of protection. And more than that, he doesn't even have his slippers. Bharat took his slippers away, So now Vibhishan is asking Ram, how will you manage to fight against Ravan? And Ram, he tells Vibhishan, who told you I don't have an armor? Who told you I don't have a chariot? So Vibhishan is saying, I can't see anything. So Ram is saying, I am standing on a ratha. I am standing on a chariot. This is a chariot called Dharma Ratha. I am standing on the chariot of Dharma. He's saying, I am equipped with weapons. The weapon of knowledge. And he's saying, I have an armor. The armor of good qualities. And I have a chariot driver. My chariot driver is sadhana, spiritual practices. So now, if you look at it from a different perspective, chariots are very important in the scriptures. Like for example, when obviously we know Krishna spoke the Gita to Arjun on a chariot, isn't it? So that's again Dharmaratha. The chariot, is a very important part. Of course, the body also is like a chariot. So this is the chariot with which we can perform our dharma. In the Bhagavatam, the 10th canto when it begins, it talks about Vasudeva and Devaki's marriage. And Vasudeva and Devaki were on a chariot driven by Kamsa. Now imagine Krishna's parents and their chariot is being driven by Kamsa. The driver is very important, isn't it? Now imagine if Kamsa is the driver of your chariot, which direction your chariot will go. And that's why the Akashvani happened over there, to get him off the chariot. So Kamsa was driving Vasudeva and Devaki's chariot. Krishna said, come on, I am going to be the chariot driver of Arjun in the future. How can my parents have Kamsa as his driver? So that is why that Akashvani, that Akashvani could have happened anytime in life, right? It could happen 1 year later, it could happen 8 years later also. But why did it happen at that point? It's simply because that Kamsa, that position of chariot driver is a very important position. He's the one who's going to give direction to your life. And as soon as Kamsa, the Akashvani happened, Kamsa's character changed completely. Akashvani means the divine voice. The unembodied voice spoke, telling Kamsa that Devaki's 8th child is going to be the cause of his death. And that shook Kamsa completely. A demon can speak philosophy and can be nice as long as there is no interruption in his sense gratification. The moment there is a disturbance in his life, he cannot speak the same philosophy. He cannot follow the same philosophy. He behaves differently, And therefore, if you study, all those people who speak philosophy, speak the Gita, during the most difficult times of their life also spoke the same Gita and lived by the same Gita. Like for example, the moment Kamsa lifted his sword to kill Devaki, Vasudeva spoke Gita to Kamsa. He speaks about how we are not the body, how we are spirit, soul. Same philosophy that Hiranyakashipu is speaking here, But when did Vasudeva speak this Gita? Vasudeva spoke Gita to Kamsa during a time when his wife's life was in great danger. Imagine, he just got married and few minutes after marriage his wife is dead. That's a very grave situation, isn't it? It's a very intense situation. But in that intense situation, Vasudeva could smile. And Vasudeva could speak the Bhagavad Gita. So that's the test of whether you are qualified to speak the Gita or not. That means during it's easy to speak Gita when everything is going nice in your life. But when nothing is going nice in your life, if you still speak the Gita, that means you're living by the Gita. And the most amazing thing is, Vasudeva spoke Gita to Kamsa on that chariot. The same, almost similar verses that Krishna speaks to Arjuna much later, So before the son speaks Gita, the father has already spoken Gita, So Vasudeva has already spoken Gita and the same Gita Krishna repeats later, And here we find Hiranyakashipu speaking Gita. Now, when Hiranyakashipu speaks Gita, the principle is same. He's speaking the same concepts. But when Hiranyakashipu speaks, we take it with a pinch of salt. Because he doesn't live by it. He doesn't live by those words. And therefore, when we look at the understanding that the Gita gives us, and one of the primary message that the Gita gives us is that we are not the body, we are spirit, soul. How difficult it is to live by that message. How difficult it is to actually understand that message. Srila Prabhupada was giving a lecture, a Radhashtami lecture. And almost the entire lecture he was speaking about how we are not this body, we are spirit, soul. And going deep into that philosophy of the Gita. After Prabhupada finished, one disciple asked him, Prabhupada, why don't you speak some Radha Krishna stories? Prabhupada said, first you understand this. First you understand that you're not the spirit, you're not the body, you're spirit, soul. And then much later you understand Radha Krishna pastimes. And almost all the lectures that Prabhupada ever gave on Radhashtami, he spoke basic philosophy only of Gita. There was a great guru. He had a disciple whose name was Nabaga. So this guru's name was Ribu. And his disciple's name was Nabaga. So Ribu was a great guru. And he taught his disciple Nabaga everything about spiritual life. And especially this point about you're not the body or spirit, soul, he emphasized it a lot. And he made sure that his disciple learned it. So Nabaga learned the whole philosophy and then he passed out from the Gurukul. He went, he got married, he got into a regular life, started living a regular life. The Guru's duty doesn't end there. The Guru's duty doesn't end when the disciple passes out from the Gurukul. The Guru makes sure that you are living by that philosophy that he has taught. So after about 1,000 years, Ribu decided to test his disciple Nabaga whether he remembers what he taught him in Gurukul. 1,000 years later, Obviously, now 1,000 years, body changes quite a lot, right? So when Rubu came to Nabaga's house 1,000 years later, Rubu was very old, much older. So Nabaga didn't recognize him. And the Guru came to his house. So Nabaga was, received him as a guest. He looked, obviously a sannyasi, so he welcomed him. So he asked him, would you like to eat something? So this Rubu, he said, yes, but I would like to eat all kinds of delicacies. I don't want normal food. Rice, dal, sabji, I don't want. I want really opulent type of food. Halwa and sweets and savories and puris and sabjis. So this Nabaga said, okay, we'll make all that for you. Just give us some time. So he said, I'll wait. So Nabaga and his wife prepared an elaborate feast and fed Ribu. Ribu, he ate like anything. He ate so much. After eating unlimited food, Nabaga, he helped him wash his hand, and then he told him, please take some rest. And then he asked him, I hope you are satisfied with the food that we fed you. I hope you are happy with it. Ribu asked him, which food? Nabaga said, just now you ate so much food. Who ate? Ribu is asking. Nabaga is saying, you just ate so much food. We prepared with so much difficulty. You ate so much food. Are you happy with it? Ribu is asking, who is happy? So Nabaga is like bewildered. He said, you ate so much food. And Ribu is asking, what food? The Nabaga goes mad. He's telling him, we cooked so much puris and sabjis and halwa and so much. You ate it. Can't you remember? Ribu is asking, who ate? Nabaga just doesn't get it. He's really freaking out. And then Ribu tells him, I never ate. This body ate. Suddenly Ribu realizes, this is not an ordinary person, this is my Guru. And then Ribu sits over there and tells Nabaga everything about basic philosophy of life, because Ribu feels that my disciple has not understood, he has forgotten all of it. He sits and teaches him the whole Gita again. He sits and teaches him the basic philosophy again. And Nabaga realizes, yes, I have forgotten the basic philosophy, and my Guru has come here to teach me again. So then like this, Nabaga learnt again all over. Ribu went away. 1,000 years later he came back. And this time Nabaga was standing in a village procession. The king was going on an elephant. Massive procession going on. And this king was seated on the top of an elephant and he was passing by. So Ribu came and stood next to Nabaga. Nabaga was one of the people in the crowd. Ribu asked him, what is happening? Again, Nabaga didn't recognize his Guru, because again 1,000 years had passed. So Ribu asked him, what is happening? Nabaga said, the king is passing. There's a procession going on. The king is seated on an elephant and the king is passing. Ribu asks him, who is the king? Nabaga said, that person sitting on top of the elephant with wearing jewelry and wearing a crown and wearing opulent dress, he is the king. And then he says, if he is the king, who is everybody else? He is saying everybody else is common man and that person sitting on top of the elephant is a king. Ribu is saying, who is common man, who is a king? Now Nabaga, he gets really irritated. He said, can't you see the fellow is sitting on the elephant, he is a king. He is saying, which elephant? Now Nabaga gets really bugged, He said, can't you see? Nabaga climbed on the shoulder of Ribu. And sitting on the shoulder of Ribu, he says, the fellow on top of the elephant is a king. The fellow below is the elephant, this huge animal. And Ribu says, Which animal? Which king? Now Nabaga, he completely gets bewildered. And finally, he gets down and he starts thinking, this has happened in the past also, And then he remembers his guru had come and tested him like this. And suddenly he looks at him and realizes he is his guru. Ribu made him sit there only. Again, he taught him full philosophy of Gita. He taught him the whole basic philosophy that the body is spirit, soul. And then Ribu, Nabaga realized that I've still yet to learn it. And then he again began to practice spiritual life. So the point over here is that the basic philosophy of life will keep coming back to us because we will keep forgetting it. We will keep not living by it. So on a day-to-day basis, how much do we really live by the basic philosophy of Gita? And how much do we live by the thought that we're the body and not the spirit soul? So that is the whole idea behind spirituality. So throughout the Bhagavatam, you will find the basic philosophies being repeated. Throughout the Gita, you will find the basic philosophies being repeated. Throughout all the Vedic scriptures, the basic concepts are being repeated because learning the basics is not easy. The progression of a Jivatma is very interesting. The third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in this discussion between Kardamuni and Devahuti, there is one section where Kardamuni is talking about the living entity, the embryo in the womb, etc. Sorry, Kapila Muni, yeah. So he's talking about the development of the embryo in the womb. At that point, Kapila Muni, he uses a particular word to describe the living entity. He calls the living entity as Jantu. So that word Jantu is a very interesting word, So the word Jantu technically means it. So all of us, we are all born Jantus. And what is a Jantu? Jantu is a very selfish thing. It's a very selfish entity. And if you look at all our progression in our lives, we are born very selfish. Highly, highly selfish people. So the moment the child is born, immediately the child puts everything in the mouth. Isn't it? You give anything to the child, first it tries to put it in the mouth only. It's for myself, If you have seen small children, their grip is like a vice, literally. Once they hold your hand, nobody can remove your hand from their grip, isn't it? It's powerful. That's a Jantu. It's highly selfish and highly self-centered. And all of us, literally for the first 5 to 6 years of our life, we are Jantus. One day, the living entity starts thinking that my mother is feeding me so much. Let me feed my mother. And one day the living entity extends his hand and feeds the mother. The day we actually think about somebody else, that day we progress from being a Jantu to becoming a Jiva. It's a progression in our consciousness. It's a progression in our mindset. Of course, a lot of people remain Jantus for the rest of their lives. That's another story, But some people progress from being a Jantu to become a Jiva. That means we start thinking about other people. We will start thinking about serving others, doing something for others. And from that level, the next level is a much higher progression, which is known as the Atma Tattva level. The Atma Tattva level is a level at which we start understanding we're not the body, we're spirit soul. That is a massive progression in the life of a Jiva. Very little people make that progression. Very few people have the opportunity to make that progression. So here, Hiranyakashipu is talking about the concept of Atma Tattva, but he is not an Atma Tattva. He is not the Atma Tattva level. He is at the Jantu level only, So even if someone may be at the Jantu level, may talk about the Atma Tattva level, doesn't mean he has reached there. He is very far from there. Atma Tattva level is a very high level of progression. And from the Atma Tattva level to go to the next level, which is Vaikuntha Chetana, is another level. That's probably a few lifetimes of effort to reach the level of Vaikuntha Chetana. So Vaikuntha Chetana is a level at which you are conscious more of Krishna than of yourself. You are conscious more of serving other Vaishnavas. You are conscious more of benefiting the society, benefiting the world, than benefiting yourself. And that's a very, very high level. It's a level at which there is no envy. It's a level at which there is no pride. It's a level at which there is no insecurity. It is a level at which there is no desires. It is a level at which there is no feelings of fear and anxiety. It's a very high level of progression. And reaching Vaikuntha Chetana is not easy. And therefore, the Vrajvasis in Vrindavan, the Dwarkavasis, Mathuravasis, these are at a stage where they've gone beyond the bodily concept, obviously, but they've even gone beyond the Atma Tattva level to reach a Vaikuntha Chetana level, which is a level at which it doesn't really matter whether we have a body or doesn't have a body, whether we are the body or not the body. They are at a totally different level of consciousness, basically. And therefore, if you look at the gopis of Vrindavan, the level at which they lived, they are Atmas who would go out to meet Krishna at night. Their bodies are there at home, but the Atmas are there with Krishna. So for them, what do you call it? The transmigration or the transition from this to that, it is so smooth. And therefore, the gopis, when they enter into that gopi talao, and the bodies melt and become that chandan in the gopi talao, how is it even possible at a human level? How is it even possible at the level of the Atma? It's a level at which there is no barriers. There is a level at which there is no external impediments. Obviously, we are very much at a human level, and a human life is never free of problems. Every day we feel hungry. Every day we feel thirsty. In fact, not feeling hungry is a problem. If you don't feel hungry, it's a disease, isn't it? So if you are hungry, then the problem is what to eat. If you have food, then the problem is it tasty? Or is it satisfying? Or is it hygienic? It'll cause, if it is not, then it'll cause food poisoning, it'll cause other diseases and problems. So there are so many problems associated with getting food. Strangely, as I said, not feeling hungry is also a problem. But if you are hungry, not getting tasty food is a problem. So now at every level, there is so much of problems. So the human body is designed in such a way that there will be some problem or the other. Vaikuntha Chetana simply means trying to go ahead of all these external impediments and trying to reach a level at which we cannot be affected by all these problems, of course. So from before Vaikuntha Chetana, you reach the Atma Tattva level. Atma Tattva level is a level at which we at least understand that these bodily problems, we shouldn't be affected by it. By understanding the fact that we are spirit soul. There are many, many advantages of being the spirit soul. Krishna speaks about all the qualities of the Atma. And one of the qualities of the Atma is that the Atma is immovable. What is the meaning of immovable? The immovable means, like, just to give you a simple example. Like if I'm standing over here, somebody pushes me, I'll move, isn't it? I'll be pushed, isn't it? But if you try to push the Atma, you can't push it. It's not possible to push the Atma. It is possible to push the body, but it is not possible to push the Atma. So why is Krishna saying that we are immovable? The Atma is immovable. He's bringing out a very beautiful quality of the Atma from that one concept. The quality of the Atma is that once the Atma decides to do something, nobody can push it. That's called determination. So now obviously we, at the level of the body, we can get pushed a lot. Temptations come and push us. People come and push us. Peer pressure pushes us. And so many things push us. That external environment pushes us. But at the level of the Atma, nothing can push us. So once we decide to do something, that's all. That's what the Atma Tattva level is. Of course, every quality of the Atma, if you explore, it brings out, all the qualities that Krishna speaks about the Atma. Every quality brings out some divine aspect of the Atma. If we simply realize it, we will become so powerful. Unfortunately, we don't realize these qualities of the Atma, and therefore we struggle with the problems of the body. The moment we understand the qualities of the Atma, the struggles of the body also start disappearing one after another. And that's why great souls, great devotees of the Lord have so much transcended the bodily problems, simply because they are focusing at a different level of consciousness. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Yes. Yes.
The dictionary, the Sanskrit dictionary. Here are some of the synonyms for the English. Living being is one. Beast is the next. Creature is the next. Then down you go a little bit. Worms, a tree, a person. Some of them are kind of neutral, but you can see insects. You know, it's a little bit,
Yeah.
a little bit depressing that we're Jantu. But thanks for it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for nice class. My question is about Atma Tattva and Vaikuntha Chaitanya. Is it always a gradual thing to understand both? Or you can simultaneously at once understand both of them?
It is gradual in the sense that until and unless you understand you're not the spirit soul, you can't go to the next level. So the realization of the first one has to come first, and then you make the progression towards the Vaikuntha Chaitanya. Of course, realization of the first one itself takes a long time. So once you come to at least a theoretical understanding of Atma Tattva, then you can progress towards Vaikuntha Chaitanya also, while building up the deeper understanding of Atma Tattva. Anything else? Any other questions or comments?
This is a question. I remember when I first read this many years ago, and I said, this is Hiranyakashipu Gita. He's just speaking, and how, and you wouldn't ordinarily hear an out and out, dyed in the wool demon speaking like this. And it's interesting that Prabhupada, as we all know, he sometimes puts some of the purport into the translation. So one of the translations early on in this whole Gita was that, and it's natural. Therefore, one should not lament for the passing away of a dear soul because they really. But that's what he was doing. That's the whole reason, right? With Hiranyaksha, he was so enraged. He went to perform all of these austerities. So what is going on here? Is he? My theory, forgive me, was that this is the way you can really console someone whose dear one has passed away. They're not really dead. They're dehinosmin yata dehi, and this is expanding on all of that. So he's forced to speak that, but you'll notice he never says, therefore one should chant Hare Krishna, therefore worship Narayana. None of that, It's all on the level of the soul and the body, different from the soul. So am I correct in that? And then this word, in the Bhagavad Gita, one of the first words in the 16th chapter to describe the demons is dambha. Dambha, which Prabhupada would always translate as pride, but it's like this false pride. It has this thing of hypocrisy in it. So he's speaking things here that it's kind of, he's using the philosophy in a certain way, but it's not really as hard. Am I correct in that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there is a lot of theoretical cognizance, but there is no practical realization. Even Ravan was in the same spirit, right? He knew everything. In fact, Duryodhana in the Mahabharata, if you see, he tells his father, I know everything. I know what dharma is. Janami aham dharma, he says. I know what dharma is, but I will not follow it. I know what adharma is. I will do that only, he says. So there is cognizance of what, there is cognizance of what is right and what is wrong, but there is no realization of it. There is no practice of it. And the interesting thing is that most of these people, this falls under a particular category in psychology. It's called as Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism means they will use anything to get their point. It's manipulation, basically. So if philosophy works, they'll use philosophy to manipulate. If philosophy doesn't work, force works, they'll use force to manipulate. If sweet words works, that they'll use that to manipulate. So basically, to get their work done, they'll use anything. So that's... Yes. So a lot of Machiavellianism in politics. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Very, very grateful for your kind attention and for the opportunity to speak. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.